we're out here. This is the field where the magic happens.
Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Sports. If you like daily sports competition like I do, and you enjoy a little higher, a little lower, hockey, college, NFL, it's all over the place. NBA, tons of sports, and it's daily. Keep you busy. Get to the website. When you set up your account, make sure you enter the promo code Benning. BENNING. You'll love it. You like it, I love it. Fantastic show this morning. I know I'm a little biased, but Ravi, myself, AM 590, ESPN Tri-Cities. You can get us on YouTube, Facebook, the whole nine. We're all over the place, making sure that trying to be entertaining. Tell you a few truths along the way. Do with it what you will, but we have a really good time. So appreciate your support, being a part of it. Fantastic conversation. Our Fridays, we're trending with our man Tim Verghese, and this is on the heels of the questions that Robbie and I were talking about with Michael Bruntz yesterday about development, and we spend so much time focusing on the transfer portal and who's coming, and sometimes we forget about who's actually here in terms of development. And it's interesting because we've gotten 3 or 4 different answers from 3 or 4 different people. And Tim this morning was the first one to go in this direction. The question was, or the conversation was, hey, if in-house development is going to go the way that Nebraska fans and the coaching staff wants it to, who would you start in terms of developing or leveling up or next leveling their game? And remember, I started with Dylan Raiola. I'm like, well, you seldom pick one of your best players in terms of development, but just imagine, with, I can't even remember how I worded it. I was talking about like elite level fitness and, just a few tweaks here with mechanics going from like really good to great. And I kind of didn't get a lot of guys riding with that answer. I got a few. I convinced Bruntz a little, but Bruntz gave me a different one. He talked about Emmett Johnson and going from a 15 to 18 touch guy to maybe 20 to 22. Like, what would that look like? Ravi, on the flip side, gave me a Riley Van Poppel, Keona Davis kind of discussion, focusing on Davis and his development in the interior to play along with Van Pop. And Tim gave, which probably from a position group standpoint we would take hands down, but he gave me 2 individual players. And he said the types of guys that he would love to see develop if Nebraska was going to be who they need to be would be guys like Gunnar Gatula and Pyle. And I was thinking to myself, or Bricks. He gave me Grant Bricks. That's it. It wasn't Pyle. It was Bricks. In terms of development, I'm like, I can't. And so in 48 hours, it's the first time that I thought about actual offensive linemen as being kind of the poster child for development of the program. And I was like, that's kind of dumb, but imagine if that's the case. And Ravi brought up 2 good points. He said, well, don't beat yourself up over Dylan, because if he vaults into the development, you're thinking he would matter the most. Like, clearly it would pay the biggest dividends. But as a group, he said, I don't know along the offensive line if I would take a specific player, but as a group, I would take offensive line. And I thought that was interesting because clearly if the offensive line is really good, I mean, the sky's the limit for Nebraska. But that's any football team, I think, almost in college football, because you always want to start up front. But do you know the real reason I didn't think offensive line, like full disclosure? Because I think their development's already been pretty good. They don't strike me as like the next level leveling up, because I do think in terms of their development, they have exceeded certainly public scrutiny and maybe even my own personal expectations for what happened this year. Like, I I think the offensive line has been really good, but I'm curious because I understand both sides of it. Well, if it's offensive line as a group and they take this huge step forward, I mean Nebraska could be in business, obviously. But would you start with offensive line as kind of the catalyst? 9 times out of 10, I normally would, especially in the sport of football. But I'm not so sure I would this time. Interesting discussion, and I can't believe it was the first time and the 4 or 5 different people that I asked that an offensive lineman type came up in the discussion. Get us on Monday, 888-638-4876. There's the poster child for development if Nebraska wants to level up in terms of conference significance and playing meaningful games in December. Who's your pick? It's another episode of Benning Bites.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.